Hi, I'm Kim Billington. I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about anger and how you might unpack that in a counselling session. I've made a few notes, so I'll be reading as I go. The first thing is to ask somebody, how does anger show up in your week? So we're kind of externalising anger. How does anger show up in your week? And we'd be inviting them to provide 5 examples. So again, get a piece of paper, make 5 circles, and see how they go. They might need prompting, depending on the age. You ask different things and they might come up with the remote batteries for the TV are flat and there's no batteries in the house. A recycling company has collapsed and no one seems to care. Maybe a judge is getting too lenient with sentences. Women sometimes say that they don't like how men have these lingering looks at their bodies out in public. And petrol prices are rising again. So all these absolutely valid reasons for us to get angry. And the second phase now, we've written these down in these 5 circles, whatever the client comes up with. We can say, let's scale them. Which is high, which is medium, which is low, or we can scale them 1 to 5 for the which is the most disturbing incident or thing that happens. And then we can say, look, how do you even know that you're angry? So the remote batteries are flat. How do you even know you're angry? And what we're doing was we're inviting the client to reflect on where does the anger show up. So that's what we're really saying is, how does your body communicate that it's having an anger response? People find this really hard. Let me tell you, counsellors find this hard as well. So we as counsellors, we have to also do this body work to then expect and hope the client will get in touch with that, because only by noticing when anger is beginning are they going to be able to, have some self-compassion and sit with it and find that it's not actually somebody else making them angry, it's anger coming up in them, which is a pattern they've developed often from childhood. But anyway, we're up to question 4 now. So do you notice any other bodily reactions? Like some people say, I feel my blood's boiling, my face is turning red, or I'm clenching my fist, I'm gripping my jaw, frowning, or noticing a rapid heart rate. So 5th question is to say, well, look, in the body, from the neck below, where is the anger sitting? Is it more up near the throat? Is it in the chest or in the belly? Sometimes it's above or below the belly button. It's very common that this anger, it holds itself there for a while. So we'll get them to kind of, maybe even talk through a recent experience so that they can identify, and again, this is hard for people, identify where the emotion is held in the body. So those of you that have read The Body Keeps the Score will have a sense for what I'm talking about. And maybe we can say, when it's at its really peak intensity, is there a combination of the gritting of the teeth and this fire in the belly? So next question is, where does anger show up in your week? So really get a description that they're willing to work with, that they can do some homework around. Not serious homework, but potentially they can come up with something from this list that they're prepared to kind of notice and watch how they're responding to life. So maybe someone's written they get angry at the traffic lights when it's turned green and no one's moving forward, or someone cuts in front of them. Maybe they're watching the news and there's some sensitive topic going on at the moment that gets their blood boiling. Maybe they're watching sport and people can get quite fired up. Listen to that language, fired up, watching sport. Or maybe you're having internet issues, trying to Skype your son overseas or something, and you're having internet trouble. Or maybe you've lost your car keys. Again, it's like, where in the body is that being felt? So it shows up, externally when you've lost the car keys, but there's a parallel thing happening in the body, a reaction to those car keys being lost. You might have self-talk, critical self-talk, oh, I'm stupid, whatever. We're not interested in that, actually. We're not dealing with that at the moment. That's not the kind of therapy this body work necessarily focuses on. We might do that another week. But for this particular approach to working with anger, we're more coming in touch and connecting to the body. What's the body saying? So then they can find maybe 2 of those instances that pop up nearly every week. And in the next session, you could say, look, you can come and tell me if you noticed an escalation of the anger with any of those situations. So again, we're not asking them to shut down the anger. It's more, noticing the anger and noticing if there was this secondary, because the tension's there in the belly often, or the chest or the throat, and then it manifests in the red cheeks or the holding of the teeth or holding breath, and get them to really kind of investigate it. Just like a mechanic in the old days would lift the bonnet and then listen to the engine running and say, oh, I think it's this or that. So we need these people that are struggling with anger, and it's really spoiling their lives to some extent, to attend to this quite carefully. And again, using metaphors like the mechanic might be helpful. One of the ones I use is with people more my age. I'll say, look, do you remember when you were little and there was often toast burning? Because in those days there wasn't, the pop-up toaster, there wasn't automatic toaster. So everyone in the family had a very finely developed sense of smell around breakfast time, because we didn't want to have burnt toast. So there's a first whiff of an acrid burning smell, we were rushing to the kitchen to take the toast out from the toaster. So that's the kind of thing we need to do. If we've got a problem with anger, we need to develop this inner noticing. The sense of smell is not going to help, but potentially this inward looking sense, introception, looking inward, noticing what's happening. That's going to help. That's a really good key to unlocking what the heck's happening with this anger in someone's life. So, that's another metaphor. You might find your own metaphors, but a metaphor really helps, because in the heated moment, again, listen to that language, in the heated moment, if someone can picture a metaphor, that could get them out of trouble. So again, we want people to be aware of a couple of anger hot spots in their life and be prepared to keep an eye on them inwardly in their body's response. And then, potentially in the next session or down the track, you can talk about why are these particular problems troubling you? Because there are some people who don't get agitated at the traffic lights and can watch horrible things in the news and somehow go through this, sad, compassionate thing and feel the anger rising, but they're not going to, throw the remote control at the TV. Again, there are some people that can lose their car keys and just quietly go around looking for them without it being an emotional disturbance. So why are these things troubling your client is really helpful, but not what we want to go into first. Because what's going to happen is, as they start to tell you why it troubles them, you're going to get into early childhood stuff. You're going to get into the story of, well, Dad always got angry, or Dad slammed the door, or Mum would yell when this happened. Or, for example, the petrol prices are rising. Well, that makes me afraid because, I won't be able to do the things I want to do. We wanted to drive to, Adelaide for Christmas or something like that. And so there'll be anger and sadness there, and a fear that if it keeps rising, then what? So all these difficult emotions will come up, and all these emotions are going to be linked to childhood. So, money worries, or who in the family worried about money, can be really helpful to allow people to see that they themselves aren't messed up and broken because they have issues with anger and, are afraid of the money problems or whatever. They're born into a family where these things were happening. And we can say to the client, you're a little tacker at home, and you looked up, and how did mum and dad deal with any of these issues? And if you were hurt or needing some support or love around an unmet need, when you cried or you had your head hanging low, was there someone who, said, come here, tell me about it, what's happening? Or were you expected to get on with it, don't put that look on your face, etc.? So there can be shaming, that's what I've been talking about, from childhood, where your needs were never met or rarely met. And so these conversations about anger are actually the superficial conversations around the stuff that went on in childhood. So, yeah, I hope that this has been helpful. Thanks for listening.